Good evening. As the final complainant in the sexual assault trial of Frank Stronach took the stand today, the number of complainants dropped by one.
The Crown announced plans to withdraw a charge linked to the woman who had a contentious day on the stand on Thursday, ending with her receiving medical attention. CTV's Allison Hurst has been covering the trial and joins us live with the latest. Allison.
Nathan, that's exactly right. As you mentioned, that this charge was in relation to the complainant who was testifying at the end of last week, that day on Thursday, when court was ended early. And the Crown had also previously dropped the other charge. The number of complainants in this sexual assault case has dropped to 6. The Crown announced their intention to withdraw the second charge linked to the 6th complainant, saying there is no longer a reasonable prospect of conviction. On Friday, a day the trial wasn't sitting, the Crown received police notes about that woman's 2006 police report that hadn't been seen before because they were filed under the police officer's maiden name. The defense says they directly contradict what she said on the stand and asked Ontario Superior Court Justice Anne Malloy to grant a not guilty verdict in relation to that charge, saying her client has earned it. Malloy says she'll deal with it after the Crown finishes presenting evidence and the final complainant took the stand. This businesswoman cannot be identified but says the incident happened between 1982 and 83. The complainant testified about going to dinner with Stronach, and after, he took her to see his harborfront apartment. She says they sat on the couch. He poured a drink and then tried to kiss her. I kind of rebuffed him and said to him, "I'm not here for that. That's not what I came here for." She stepped out of the witness box to explain that he pulled her into another room, a small room with what she described as a cot. The first thing he does is he lays down and drags me on top of him. And then he quickly moves himself so his back is against the wall and I'm flat on my back on the bed. The complainant testified he tried to kiss her and pull her dress up. She says she told him no and claims it was like a tug of war between the two of them over lifting her dress. I'm trying to push his hand down and then he breaks out of the hold, pulls up my dress and pulls at the crotch. And then he just keeps ripping and ripping and ripping until there was nothing left on the front of the pantyhose except the waistband. The woman testified at that point he climbed on top of her. I'm paralyzed. I'm just like, I'm done here. I can't escape. He's pinned me down. He's ripped my pantyhose to shreds. She claims she lay there, hands by her side, waiting for it to be over. I was flat on my back and I just remember the tears rolling down my face, into my hair. I remember him grunting on top of me. I remember him thrusting on top of me. The complainant says after he was done, she went to the bathroom. What was your emotional state? Asked the Crown. I was absolutely destroyed. I was crying, I was shaking, I was incredibly upset, the complainant replied. She testified afterwards he insisted on driving her home and she sobbed the whole way. Stronach has pleaded not guilty to all charges. The defense has yet to begin its cross-examination. The trial continues tomorrow. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. Next, the Peel region, where police are looking for information on a woman who has not been seen in almost 4 years.
She wasn't reported missing to police until June of last year, and now police believe it is a homicide investigation. CTV's Janice Golding has more.
Peel Regional Police are trying to solve a mystery. A missing woman who disappeared without a trace 3.5 years ago.
Looking into her bank records, phone records, and there's been no signs of life since June of 2022.
Police say 38-year-old Meshgan Aini, who also went by the name Sarah, was last seen in June 2022, but she wasn't reported missing until June 2025.
I can't imagine it's disaster. What is the reason for that?
God bless her, because there's no way the cops gonna find this person. It's been a long time.
Police say family members in Afghanistan who'd been unable to reach Aini for an extended period eventually reported the married mother of 3 missing last summer.
I mean, it's really sad. It's somebody's mother, somebody's daughter.
Police say their investigators have spoken to friends, family, and other contacts.
She's of Afghani descent. She worked in Afghani clothing stores in that area. She worked closely with Afghani ladies.
But so far, there's been no trace of the Mississauga woman who was last seen near her apartment in the Queen Frederica and Dundas area.
It's very disturbing. I'm very worried.
Police won't say what led them to believe Aini was murdered, but say...
We do have a suspect. At this point, I'm not going to divulge who it is. We are obviously open to multiple different theories.
Police are hoping to speak to anyone who saw suspicious activity around the area of Aini's apartment complex between June 2022 and September 2022. Meshgan Aini is described as 5'2" tall. With a medium build, she had long, straight black hair. Janice Golding, CTV News.
More news in a moment, but first we turn our attention to the forecast on this Monday evening. A live shot, Nathan Phillips Square. Beautiful day out there with the sunshine. Definitely cool, but there are much warmer days ahead this week. The signs of spring are everywhere, Lindsay Morrison.
I know. We love to see it. We love to feel it, Michelle. We weren't quite feeling it today. We were below seasonal. Once again, we're at -5 degrees here at Pearson Airport specifically, and that ended up being our daytime high. But look at the start we got off to. -14 degrees this morning at Pearson Airport, -25 degrees in Peterborough, -32 in Algonquin Park. It's not going to be quite as cold as that overnight tonight. Mainly clear to start off the night. Then we'll see an increase in cloud cover. Winds have been pretty light today as well. Coming up, we're not only going to talk about the warm up, but also the possibility of some active weather just clipping us tomorrow. Those details are ahead. But for now, Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. A major downtown intersection is now closed and will remain that way for more than a month.
Streetcar track replacement at Bain College means detours and inconveniences for drivers and transit riders. Our Mike Walker joins us live from that intersection with more. Mike, how's it looking?
Well, Michelle, Nathan, as you can see, the work is continuing. It is noisy as crews are ripping up the existing streetcar tracks. Now, people we've been speaking to who live, work, use transit, or drive in this area tell us the noise and detours have been disruptive. The drilling echoes in the core. Around-the-clock construction now underway, shuttering the busy intersection of Bay and College until mid-April.
It has to be done, but it's a total drag.
It's for the good of the road. It doesn't really matter. Everyone has to sacrifice a bit.
The first phase of major construction work includes replacing the aging streetcar tracks.
And this infrastructure along here is about 25 years old for us, so it's right at the end of life.
The closure leading to detours for drivers, snarling traffic on some side streets for those trying to get to work and appointments.
It was difficult to find parking close to where I had to go, and because I'm disabled, it's hard for me to walk long distances.
It's also forcing diversions for the TTC's Carlton streetcar down to Dundas between Parliament and McCall. It's the third busiest streetcar route with 29,000 daily riders. Replacement buses also running.
I usually take a streetcar, but I'm going to have to walk now.
People are usually pretty understanding, even if it's frustrating. We wouldn't want it to get into disrepair, then what would happen?
The construction is 24/7. In addition to the streetcar tracks, the city is also upgrading sewers and pipes in the area.
That'll probably affect my sleep.
A huge adjustment for condo residents like Alyssa.
Honestly, I have to figure out how I'm going to get my car in the parking lot on Bay Street. So that's the biggest thing right now.
The city says the most disruptive work, concrete breaking, will be in the first few days. The owner of this nail salon fears many regulars who are seniors will wait until the work is done.
Comfortable to customer comes, and yeah, I lose some business, not like a regular.
We get that it's frustrating for people, but this is such important work for us and for the city, and we're partnering together so that we're not, us and the city are not doing two different pieces of work. It's one big piece of work.
The city says access to businesses and properties will be maintained, with construction pausing in mid-April for the FIFA World Cup. The next two phases of work will resume in late July. And again, this is a live look at the intersection. This work is going to be happening right around the clock, 24/7. The entirety of this project will see infrastructure upgrades along Carlton and College between Church and Bay. The infrastructure upgrades being made, the TTC says, will be good for the next 25 years. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Also tonight, dangerous safety hazards above and below. Emergency crews are repairing the Gardiner Expressway to address the risk of falling concrete. One person was seriously injured in a shooting at a business in Etobicoke early this morning. Toronto police say they were called to Kipling and Belfield Road at 5:37 for reports of unknown trouble. Bullet holes were visible in two cars parked out front and a side window at the rental car business. Staff at the company say a security guard was grazed by a bullet. He's listed in serious condition. Police say the motive for the shooting remains under investigation, and the suspects took off in a vehicle. Meanwhile, police were called to a business near Dufferin and Steeles around 2:45 this morning for reports of gunshots. They found damage to buildings in the area, but there have been no reports of injuries. Police have not given any details on possible suspects.
The province released a plan today aimed at accelerating the construction of all seasons roads to the Ring of Fire region in northern Ontario.
We don't believe the North is a wasteland. We have incredible partners here with First Nations, and we're continuing to build that. It's going to be led by the First Nations, and we're going to be there to support them, and that's the difference.
Construction is set to begin in June, and under the new plan, the roads will begin to open in November of 2030, 5 years ahead of schedule. As part of the plan, the government has also signed new economic partnerships with Martin Falls First Nation and Webeki First Nation.
High school students across Durham region walked out of class today to protest the Ford government's planned changes to the Ontario Student Assistance Program.
Now, CTV's Beth McDonnell reports some graduating students say the recently announced changes have put their future educational opportunities in doubt.
Walking out of classes at their Oshawa school, students from O'Neill Collegiate and Vocational Institute hold signs to save OSAP. That's the Ontario Student Assistance Program, which provides post-secondary students a mix of grants and loans to cover education costs.
Determining if you can or cannot go to education should have nothing to do with money.
This Ford government is really interested in the now, not the future.
This winter, the Ford government announced it would reduce the proportion of grants available through OSAP, which don't require repayment, from 85% of funding to 25% and increase loans. It also allows schools to raise tuition by 2% over the next 3 years, lifting a freeze that had been in place since 2019.
We're all very worried, especially because with these cuts, it's going to take away so many opportunities from so many people.
Grade 12 student Grace Cowan is one of the organizers of her school's walkout, held in conjunction with other Durham high schools, including Anderson and Eastdale Collegiate and Vocational Institutes. The changes are so devastating, some students already enrolled in post-secondary programs don't know if they'll be able to attend in the fall.
Knowledge is power.
We will not be weak. Mackay Hayes says he was planning to do his dream program, a double major in arts and science at Guelph. It's expected to cost around $13,000 for his first year alone, and he no longer knows if he can afford to go.
Doug Ford, you need to reassess your values and how you view students as a whole. We are more than just statistics.
The Minister of Colleges and Universities office says there is billions of dollars of pressure on OSAP due to a federal government decision to remove grant eligibility at private colleges, at the same time as increased program uptake in recent years. But students say the decisions are misguided, and many here feel misunderstood.
When I first saw Doug Ford and his cuts to OSAP and his comment about basket weavers specifically, I was outraged because I would like to go into arts.
These students say they'll keep walking out until the changes are reversed. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Still ahead on CTV News, Canadians are warned to avoid travel to more than a dozen countries as the conflict in the Middle East widens. But first to the situation in the Middle East as the U.S. and Israel signal further strikes on Iran, and Tehran says it'll keep firing back.
Experts warn there's a growing chance the war could draw in more countries in the region. CTV's Adrian Gobril reports from Istanbul.
Unrelenting and punishing, just 3 days into this U.S.-Israeli-led military campaign against Iran, and the number of countries being pulled into this war is growing. Blasts echoed across Beirut today, Israel's military confirming it struck Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after the Iranian-backed group says it launched rockets and drones of their own into the Israeli city of Haifa. Visiting the site of a missile strike on a synagogue west of Jerusalem, where at least 9 people were killed, Israel's prime minister says he warned the world that Iran was capable of attacking Western allies.
I stand here in a place that was bombarded by the terrorists in Tehran against innocent civilians. You see the difference. The tyrants of Tehran target civilians. We target the tyrants of Tehran to protect civilians.
Though inside Iran, Red Crescent workers there say more than 500 people have been killed, including children, who died here following an airstrike that struck a school. In the early morning hours, multiple flashes can be seen in the sky as a drone strike hits a British Royal Air Force base in Cyprus. This coming just as the U.S. has been granted permission to use British military bases for defensive strikes on Iranian missile sites. In Kuwait, a U.S. fighter jet is seen spiraling to the ground, one of 3 American F-15s shot out of the sky following a friendly fire incident. An oil refinery in Saudi Arabia was shut down today after it was hit by an Iranian drone. Iran's newly formed Leadership Council says it won't negotiate with the U.S. administration as the war widens its reach.
But this is war.
Istanbul University political science professor Kivak Yusaloy says many in the region are still waiting for Israel and the United States to present a credible case for setting off this war with Iran.
Turkish government nowadays does not want to be seen siding with Israel in an attack against Iran. An unjustified attack, by the way. A lack of public diplomacy in all senses, from the side of U.S. and from the side of Israel.
Well over 1,000 targets have been hit across Iran. Israel has argued that this was a preemptive attack. The only certainty, this full-scale war is escalating at an alarming rate.
Here in Turkey, President Tayyip Erdogan has called the attacks on Iran a clear violation of international law. Adrian Gobrel, CTV News, Istanbul.
The Iranian diaspora has been holding rallies around the world, including Canada, with more than 280,000 living primarily in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal.
CTV's John Vanavalli-Rao on their reaction to the strikes and the possibility of a regime change.
In a part of Toronto known as Little Iran, there are big signs all around that most everyone here favors a regime change and thrilled the Ayatollah is gone.
Super happy because a dictator was killed, and we've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
Pretty much everyone we spoke with supporting the attack by the U.S. and Israel.
We have a very bright future in Iran, for sure.
Sam Shagagi says he feels like his native country has been born again, optimistic the Islamic regime will be toppled.
And be super happy about what's happening, what President Trump and Israel doing for us. We appreciate that forever.
Still, many are concerned about loved ones in Iran, including this woman who's been checking her phone for messages from either her 2 brothers or 2 sisters who she last heard from on Friday.
It's been 2 days. We don't have any news from them. We don't know if they are alive, if they are not.
Grocery store owner Carlo Zadeh is happy with the way things are going, hoping the exiled crown prince, the Shah's son, will go back to Iran and take over the government.
You know, I like this regime go to the hell, and the people of Iran getting free.
Zadeh also pleased the Ayatollah was killed.
That's a joy and happiness, because these people are not belong to today. They are belong to 1,500 years ago. They are not for today time.
Across the country, many Iranian Canadians see this as a moment of possibility as they watch the story unfold from afar. Meanwhile, as Iran enters an uncertain chapter, the community here is both balancing hope for change while bracing for whatever comes next. John Vanavalli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
And as events unfold, York police are sharing an update on their investigation into a shooting early Sunday at a gym near Yonge and Steeles. Nobody was hurt, but the business is owned by Salar Gholami, a well-known activist who's spoken out against the Iranian regime. Gholami said he believes the business was targeted and he won't be intimidated. Police emphasize they haven't confirmed any motive at this stage. They also say they're searching for this dark-colored SUV driven away from the scene by a suspect in dark clothing.
The fighting overseas has meant significant air travel restrictions, preventing flights into or out of much of the Middle East. CP24 spoke with a Torontonian who is currently in Dubai about his experience.
We were scheduled to leave Dubai yesterday. On Saturday, we were just on an excursion and we got word that the war started. So immediately we tried to book an emergency flight out for the same night. Since then, our flight has been rescheduled 3 times, including the other one that we booked. It all kind of happened so fast.
The federal government has urged Canadians traveling in the Middle East to register with Global Affairs Canada as it advises against all travel to 10 countries across the region. Prime Minister Mark Carney has wrapped up his visit to India after outlining plans for a new economic partnership agreement.
The trip is being described as a diplomatic breakthrough, but questions about Indian interference in Canada remain. CTV's Abigail Beeman has the details.
Prime Ministers Mark Carney and Narendra Modi launch a new phase of the Canada-India relationship, and Carney invited Modi to visit Canada.
There has been more engagement between the Canadian and Indian governments in the last year than there has been in more than 2 decades combined.
We will turn ideas into global solutions.
Announcing 5 memorandums of understanding on energy and AI and 10 commercial deals, including a highly anticipated $2.6 billion deal to sell uranium from Saskatchewan to India.
It's going to be good for the electricity outbuild here in India, as well as good for the economy and good for, in particular, northern Saskatchewan and Canada, I would say, as well.
The pair committed to finalizing a new broad trade deal by the end of the year.
Business loves certainty, and particularly at a time like this where uncertainty is rampant, trade agreements give us some confidence that we can invest in each other's countries.
Carney has not taken any questions since a government official suggested Wednesday India was no longer actively carrying out foreign interference or transnational repression, and canceled the first media availability of the trip today, blaming scheduling. The Foreign Affairs Minister for the first time gave a clearer assessment of the comments.
The words of the senior official are not words that I personally would use. I agree with his comments relating to the guardrails that we have in place.
But the bilateral relationship has become so warm, Canada welcomed Indian government officials, including the High Commissioner, onto the Prime Minister's plane from Mumbai to New Delhi. Carney's office said Modi accepted the invitation, but there's no timeline for a visit to Canada. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, New Delhi.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is also on an overseas trip. He was in London today, meeting with political and business leaders. He said the goal of the trip is to deepen trade and security ties between Canada and the UK. Poilievre is also set to travel to Germany later this week.
Canada's largest public sector union has filed a grievance as the Carney government moves to slash the size of the federal civil service by 28,000 positions by the year 2029. The Public Service Alliance of Canada said it's made that grievance claim over an early retirement incentive program offered to thousands of workers. PSAC says it supports any effort to prevent involuntary layoffs, but it says the offers circumvent key obligations under existing collective agreements. The union called for a pause so consultations can take place, and while alternative positions are sought for potentially impacted employees. The government says the retirement incentives aren't available until the budget implementation bill becomes law.
The Canada Border Services Agency says it seized over 100 kilos of cocaine after inspecting a tractor-trailer at the Blue Water Bridge. The CBSA says on February 19th, a commercial truck arriving at the port of entry from the U.S. was referred for a secondary examination. During the inspection, Border Services found 111.4 kilos of cocaine. A 25-year-old from Belleville and a 29-year-old from Nova Scotia were arrested by the RCMP and charged with importation of cocaine and possession of cocaine for the purpose of trafficking.
Some welcome news for the owner of a painting in the Netherlands. A museum there has confirmed a piece of art is a genuine Rembrandt.
You never know. We always hope to find a new Rembrandt, but this happens rarely.
Researchers at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam spent 2 years examining the painting, carrying out scans and identifying all the materials used. They had only been asked by the anonymous owner to figure out if the biblical scene was Dutch. The museum says it turned out to have been created by the then 27-year-old artist in the year 1633. It's now set to go on display for the first time. Back here at home, and word tonight that a compromise has been reached regarding the redevelopment of the Weston Lions Arena.
Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment had plans to develop the site and wasn't planning on keeping the ice rink. But those plans have changed. CTV Sean Leathon has been following this story from the beginning and joins us live from ringside tonight with the latest. And Sean, it sounds like a win-win situation.
It really does, Nathan and Michelle. And for the longest time, for the better part of the year, much of this community was divided between folks who wanted this free community space from Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment and those in the hockey community who wanted to preserve this ice. Now it looks like they'll get both.
The ice at Weston Lions Arena, here for more than 70 years, will not go quiet. Kids will continue to skate. The game will continue to be played. After both the city and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment confirmed the ice will remain.
I think the future of hockey really needed this in the city of Toronto.
President of Weston Minor Hockey, Leslie Bannard, has been fighting for almost a year to keep the arena alive. We first spoke with Bannard last June when her organization had been told they need to look for a new home.
All we're asking for is a chance to survive.
The 76-year-old facility needs millions in repairs, and the city initially aimed at a solution. In April 2025, the City of Toronto entered into a leasing agreement with MLSC to turn Weston Lions Arena into a launch pad. Offering free community programming, Weston Minor Hockey was told the renovated facility would not include ice.
It's been so divisive politically in this neighborhood. I'm for the arena or I'm for launch pad. Nobody really understood that there's a true middle here. We could have always had both.
I just think the community, the hockey community came together and they really wanted this rink to stay.
Lucas Miller runs hockey schools out of Weston, and he took up the fight, creating petitions and even meeting with Premier Doug Ford in February of this year. That's when he says things started moving.
I can't thank Mr. Premier Ford enough. I think he was a big factor in this.
The province now entering a partnership with the city and MLSC. In a statement, MLSC President and CEO Keith Pelly said, the aim of this expanded partnership is to preserve the ice rink as a focal part of the arena while supporting the revitalization of the facility and delivering life-changing programming to benefit the community. Local councillor Francis Nunziata also sent a statement confirming the preservation of the arena and reading in part, a revitalized Weston Lions Arena will feature a new ice pad and full sports-based program that will be built adjacent to the arena to serve the local community first, while protecting the arena's heritage features.
Everyone's working collaboratively together. Another example, when you work together, folks, things get done.
And I think we're going to have a solution that allows us to reinvest in Weston Arena and make sure that there is ice there on a go-forward basis while leveraging the investment from MLSE to bring a launch pad to the community.
Weston Lions Arena has a rich history. It's been featured in commercials like this one for Tim Hortons depicting a young Wayne Gretzky, and in movies like Score, a hockey musical. It's also known for the French fries, with profits going to the local food bank and to help underprivileged kids pay for hockey equipment and learn to play in the Weston Small Fries program.
What's to say that we shouldn't come back and help?
For Leslie Bannard, they don't know exactly what the future holds, but today is a win.
When we first started hearing rumblings of the news breaking, the head of the food bank, the Weston Food Bank, came into the rink. Her granddaughter plays in our first hour, and she just walked into the office and gave me a huge hug. And I think that said everything.
Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment says they'll release a design sometime in the second quarter of this year.
Now the question for the arena is what happens next. Leslie Bannard says they have been allotted ice elsewhere for next season, but now we don't know if this will be open next year or it will close for a longer renovation. Reporting live, I'm Sean Neathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Coming up, the options for gambling online seem endless, but with expanded access in Ontario comes a surge in calls for help. What new Canadian research reveals about who is most impacted.
Well, not only was yesterday the first day of March, but it also means we officially welcomed meteorological spring. Mark your calendar for March 20th. That's the vernal equinox. And going forward, we can expect, yes, some warmer temperatures. We do still get snow in the month of March, but you can expect us to start seeing a little more in the way of rain. And that happens as early as this week. We'll take a full look at your weather forecast coming up here on CTV News at 6. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
We're learning more tonight about the Premier's plans for a new convention center in this city.
One he says will be nearly 5 times larger than the current one. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more.
It's been a mainstay in downtown Toronto since 1984 for Comic-Con.
Good job, Annika.
COVID vaccine clinics.
Good to see you.
And countless conventions. But the Premier feels the Ontario-owned Metro Toronto Convention Centre
Goes up, that goes down, that goes up, that goes sideways, you cross the road.
is on its last legs. Despite its prime location, the convention centre is trailing other global facilities in locking down big events, leaving economic benefit to others.
We're going to build a world-class 2 million square foot, state-of-the-art convention center.
That's 4.5 times the exhibition space of the current convention centre. It means new construction somewhere else. There's no price tag Doug Ford's willing to share.
We have an incredible idea, and I just can't mention where it's going to be or how we're going to build it, but it's going to be another shock and awe.
At another event a few hours later, a hint at a possible new convention centre on the exhibition grounds.
So if someone visits Toronto at a convention, they're going to say, wow, this is world class. Then I was able to go down to the Science Centre with the kids. Then we caught a concert at Live Nation.
Ford won't confirm or deny he has his eyes on the X grounds.
We're just sorting some things out with our federal counterparts, our municipal and the province. But it's going to be world class.
With a lengthy, expensive redevelopment of the waterfront underway, there is some skepticism of a new convention centre as a priority.
He's got to show us the cost-benefit analysis. Like, he shouldn't just be drawing up billion-dollar ideas on the back of a napkin.
This isn't coming entirely out of the blue. In 2023, Ontario's Auditor General flagged issues with the convention centre, with dropping attendance, security issues, and a repair backlog that in July was close to $30 million. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
The city is carrying out what it calls emergency work on several sections of the Gardiner Expressway.
Officials say they're addressing the risk of falling concrete, but stress the Gardiner has always been and remains safe to travel on and under. While the roadway undergoes a major overhaul, a staff report warned there was a risk of punch-through failures in the concrete, which could have posed a hazard to drivers and pedestrians below. Crews have been working on $4.4 million of repairs since November, focusing on the Gardiner between Grant Magazine Street and York Street and Cherry Street to the DVP. The city says no major road closures are expected. The work is scheduled to be done ahead of the FIFA World Cup, coming our way in June. And a heads up for subway riders. Service on part of Line 1 will end at 11 p.m. for the next few nights. Crews are carrying out planned tunnel work between Finch and Eglinton stations. Then on Line 2, train service will end just before midnight between Keele and St. George to allow for track maintenance. Shuttle buses will run during both nightly closures, which are scheduled to last through Thursday.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. We're into March now, a new month, and you can almost automatically feel the change.
It is nice. The bright sunshine, it's cool to start, but there are some mild temperatures, some that we haven't felt in a while, and you got to think it's going to be melting some of that snow.
Well, not only are we going to have mild temperatures leading to some melting, but we've got some rain in the forecast for a little later this week as well. Tomorrow, we could get a little bit of active weather, maybe a quick passing shower, but there's also the possibility that a little bit of mixing could happen too. Temperature is going to be near freezing tomorrow, and then the warm-up begins. I want to take a look at, I'm going to take you back to February. This is St. John's, Newfoundland, not so long ago. And why are we talking about Newfoundland? Well, St. John's specifically had its snowiest February on record, and that's saying something considering just how much snow this part of our country is used to getting. I thought this would be interesting because we here in Toronto, we had our snowiest January on record, but as we take a look back at February, we were right average as far as snowfall is concerned. But of course, you add that to all of the snow we had in January and December. No question, it has been a snowy winter season. But now we're going to start to see a bit more of a transition to rainy days as opposed to snow. It is still cool right now. We're at -5 degrees at Pearson Airport. It feels like -8. Our almanac, I want to point this out, seasonal norm is +2. The warm spot today in Ontario, it's been communities in northern Ontario, several climbing well above that freezing mark. Some of that warmth is headed our way, so we just have to be patient. Overnight tonight, not as cold as it was last night, -8 for the low, wind chill -13. And then here's tomorrow, +2 for the high, but that chance of mixing is going to happen starting about midday and then continuing through the afternoon, maybe even into the early part of the evening. It's possible that everyone's going to remain dry. The system may miss us entirely, but just want to give you the little heads up of what could be on tap for tomorrow. The further north or east you are, the less likely it's looking that you will get into some active weather. But just about everyone is going to feel a change in temperature as the week goes on. And by this weekend, we are talking daytime highs in the double digits. Here's a look at what we're watching for when it comes to active weather. A system swinging through. Here's how it plays out timing-wise. So around midday tomorrow, you can see it just clips us here in the GTA. Again, plenty of time for this to change. This is just one model run, but do want to point out that possibility for your Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday early evening. Mix of sun and cloud for Wednesday, +5, and the temperatures climb into the weekend, but we are forecasting rain Thursday and through to Saturday. Saturday's daytime high, 11. 10 degrees on Sunday with a mix of sun and cloud. That's going to be a beautiful day. And if there weren't enough signs of spring, a reminder that we spring forward this weekend with the clocks going forward 1 hour at 2 a.m. on Sunday. That's your look at the weather for now. Stay with us. CTV News. We'll be right back.
A new study published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal today shows a dramatic rise in young men seeking help for problematic online gambling.
It comes in the wake of Ontario expanding the online gaming market. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
We were interested in looking at changes in health harms as a result of the various policy changes that happened in Ontario.
Researcher Ryan Forrest looked at the development of Ontario's online gambling formats from a single government-run website in 2015 to legalized single-event sports betting in 2021, and then becoming the only province in Canada to open a privatized market for gambling. There are now more than 80 gaming and betting sites, with $63 billion being wagered on these sites through 2.1 million accounts in 2024. Forrest says the introduction of in-play betting, which can be done even after a game has started, has been particularly harmful.
It allows really rapid, continuous betting during sports events. And research suggests that these sort of fast betting cycles, these constant opportunities to wager, and the real-time, emotional engagement involved in this can really increase impulsive decision-making and make it harder for people to stop.
And looking at the calls for help to the province-wide mental health service Connects Ontario shows young males are having significantly more problems than other groups.
We saw that 350% increase in contacts specifically among young men. So almost all of the increase we saw is coming from this demographic of young men aged 15 to 44.
The legal age for online gambling in Ontario is 19, and the impact can, in some cases, become life-threatening.
At the individual level, it's financial distress, as you said, anxiety and depression, substance use problems, in severe cases, it can be increased risk of self-harm or suicide.
Harms beyond the individual include relationship breakdowns, domestic violence, and more.
Other provinces are going to be wanting to look closely at this.
She says things like stronger limits on advertising, spending limits, and making sure treatment is available and accessible are all important considerations. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Canadian actress and comedian Katherine O'Hara was honored posthumously at the 32nd Actor Awards last night.
If you have people in your lives that don't know her work, if they're kids in your lives or just people who are out of touch or stupid or something, just show them O'Hara dancing to Harry Belafonte and Beetlejuice. Show them O'Hara hurting her knee in Best in Show and doing that amazing thing where she hobbles around. And tell the people as they are laughing that that's Katherine O'Hara, and we were lucky that we got to live in a world where she so generally shared her talents with us. Thank you.
O'Hara won the award for Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Comedy Series for her role in The Studio. Seth Rogen, who co-created and stars in the show, accepted the award on her behalf. O'Hara died January 30th at the age of 71. And speaking of awards, the Toronto Film Critics Association is holding its awards gala tonight at the Omni King Edward Hotel, and that is where we find the beautiful Andrea Case. Andrea.
from one beauty to another. Hi, Michelle. Yes, we're here on the red carpet. And you know, you're just talking about Katherine O'Hara, so I'm going to bring in Adam O'Goyan here because you were actually just watching one of her films the other night.
Yeah, Best in Show. Like, she's just so great. It's because we have a dog now, and so I wanted to rewatch it, and I just forgot. Like, she was, and she went. It was such an amazing way to go out, to be in the studio and to be in this wonderful series, and to be so clear in our brains and being so entertained and in so much shock, you know, over this. And I thought Seth Rogen's words were just so beautiful, and it's a crazy thing, right? But she's immortalized, and so we can always watch these amazing performances, and that's the blessing. But even going back to, you know, SCTV and like this incredible body of work, and just always so, I don't think she ever gave an inauthentic performance, though it was always so clearly inauthentic in a way, because that's sort of what she did. So yeah, it was amazing, an amazing career.
So we're here at the 29th Annual Toronto Film Critics Association Awards. Now, you haven't been here in a couple of years.
No.
Now, what brings you out tonight, Adam?
I can't really say.
Oh, come on. We'll never tell.
It's a surprise, but I've been asked to say some words about a very dear friend, and I have a long history with them. And I guess I could tell you because by the time it's Ron Mann. Okay. So Ron Mann was somebody who was my mentor. We went to U of T at the same time, and he's being honored tonight. So I just have some stories about Ron Mann and how much he inspired me. And yeah, he was a very big figure. And so when they asked me to do this, I couldn't say no. Okay, I'm going to tell Jamie just to get a shot of Ron Mann, who's just behind you there while we continue talking. So you've watched a lot of films. The gentleman right there with the white hair over the shoulder there. So you've obviously seen a lot of films this year. Has there a film that particularly struck you this year at all? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Well, look, I'm from Vancouver Island. So Blue Heron was like a really big film for me because I thought it really captured the sense of that place. I hadn't seen it really photographed that way before. It's a deeply moving story. So I really love that film. But I also was in a theater last week at the Carlton to see Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And that was a deliriously great time. And what a way to celebrate Toronto. And then, you know, David Cronenberg has made a kind of a masterpiece. So it's like a pretty impressive year. But I do have a special place in my heart for Blue Heron. Okay, well, we're going to be talking about Blue Heron later on this week because we talked to Sophie today. Just real quick, the film critics here, they picked one battle after another, Paul Thomas Anderson, as their best film of the year. I will have so much more from this award show in the coming days because I'm talking to lots of people, but right now I send it back to the studio.
All right, can't wait. Thanks, Andrea. After the break, marking 100 days until the FIFA World Cup, Toronto prepares to kick things off with a major soccer celebration tomorrow night. Energy prices surged following the U.S. and Israeli attack on Iran. BNN Bloomberg's Lindsay Biscaya has more.
Oil surged the most in 4 years as the escalating conflict threatens oil supplies in one of the world's key producing regions. The Strait of Hormuz handles as much as 20% of the world's oil shipments. Brent futures topped $80 a barrel, and the surge leaves oil prices up about 30% so far this year. OPEC Plus has agreed to raise quotas next month by 206,000 barrels a day. And here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar was down to 73.13. West Texas Intermediate is up to 72.30. Western Canadian Select also up to end the day to 52.93. And the TSX is also up more than 200 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Lindsay Biscaya.
Well, Toronto prepares to mark 100 days until the FIFA World Cup with a public celebration tomorrow evening. The event will be held at Rebel and is set to feature live performances celebrating Toronto's pride as a host city and the nation slated to play their World Cup matches here this summer. That includes Croatia, Cote d'Ivoire, Germany, Ghana, Panama, and Senegal. The party gets started tomorrow night at 5:30 p.m. and you will want to watch our coverage all day because we have some special coverage planned for you. Short break, more CTV News when we return. Weather permitting, those up early tomorrow morning will get a look at a celestial event not due to happen again for 2 years.
A total lunar eclipse is set to take place, but you might have heard a much spookier name. A blood moon takes place when the Earth moves between the sun and moon, casting a shadow that can turn the moon a deep red color. The blood moon will technically start just before 3:45 in the morning, but it'll become more visible as the shadow of the Earth covers more of the moon's surface. It's expected to reach totality between 6 and 7 in the morning for sky gazers here in the city. Cool.
Even though the Earth is blocking the direct sun from hitting the moon, there's still some light that skirts around the edges of the Earth. Because we have an atmosphere, the atmosphere kind of lights up. So if you were standing on the moon, you would see the sun pass behind the Earth, but you would still see this bright orange halo around the Earth, the way we see a sunrise or a sunset at the horizon. And that orange light is what's hitting the moon. And so it gives it that blood look.
Ooh, the Canadian Space Agency says unlike a solar eclipse, it is totally safe to watch the lunar eclipse without special viewing equipment. And fortunately, the totality is doable. You don't have to wake up that early. You're up so early anyways.
Oh, I'll be up, not by choice. I have 2 young children. But yes, a little bit of cloud cover could interfere with this display. Here's a look at your wake-up weather. But fingers crossed we get to enjoy that because we don't want to wait another 2 years. And a reminder that we've got the potential for a little bit of active weather in the afternoon tomorrow. Your next 3 days look like this. It's warming up as the week goes on. Michelle and Nathan.
Warming up. Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us. But be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a wonderful night.